Well, ladies and gentlemen, now that Joe Biden is about to leave the White House, all of the dirty laundry is beginning to air out. And in the case of the breaking story that we're going to be talking about today, we find out that one of our sneaking suspicions and darkest nightmares regarding Joe Biden has been true the entire time. You see, just yesterday, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, for the first time ever, told the press about one of the most concerning Joe Biden stories that we've ever heard. And now, I don't want to spoil too much right out of the gate, but it pretty much confirms that Joe Biden wasn't, in fact, the person leading our country for the last 4 years. I know, shocker. And so, with today's episode, I really encourage everyone here to stick around all the way to the end, but without further delay, let's get right into it.
I do stand by it, and I say this without any personal animus at all. I mean, in some ways, I actually kind of feel sorry for Joe Biden. I mean, he's in the twilight years of his life. He is not, obviously, has not been in charge for some time. And I know this by personal observation, and now the whole world knows it, and it's been very, very concerning to me over the last, year and a half since I've had this
Can you
position.
tell us a story when you say personal observation? What kind
Well, I
of thing
mean,
did you see?
it's public now because the Wall Street Journal got it and put it on the front page. But
And this is where things get crazy.
January a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, I had been asked, I became Speaker in October 2023, and there were all sorts of big national security concerns and everything going on, and I started requesting a meeting with the President because, I'm kind of old school, I'm a constitutional law guy. Speaker of the House should be able to talk to the President, especially in times of great national interest and calamity.
I think that makes sense.
But they wouldn't let me meet with him, and his staff kept giving me excuses. This went on for like 8 or 9 weeks. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, he doesn't have time. What are you talking about? I'm second in line of the presidency. He has time. I need to talk to him. We had, I can't say the classified parts, but we had some big national concerns at the time that I was losing sleep over. Finally, I just went to the Hill Press Corps and I said, the president is not being allowed to meet with the speaker. There's a problem. So they started putting pressure on him.
Can we all consider just how insane that is, that the Speaker of the House, second in line of presidential succession, right behind the Vice President, can't get a one-on-one meeting with the president for over 2 months?
Long story short, they finally relented. They invited me to the White House. I show up and I realize it's actually an ambush because it's not just me and the president. It's also Kamala Harris, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem, the CIA director, everybody. And then, so I walked in the Oval and, I know what this is. They're going to hotbox the speaker on Ukraine funding. That's what it was.
And so when the meeting finally does happen, it's actually with several other top Democrats so they can try to push for more money for Ukraine, of course.
This is probably third week of January. We sit down, we're in the midst of it, and the whole conversation, and I'm going, we don't need to have this conversation. The president reaches over just like this. We're sitting right next to the fireplace in the Oval, and he grabs my arm and he says, the speaker and I just need a couple minutes together. Would y'all just leave us alone? And I looked up on the faces of some of the staff standing around the wall, and they're like, oh, no, he did it. So he called it. He's the commander-in-chief. So everybody leaves, and he and I are standing awkwardly in the middle of the Oval Office, right over the rug by that coffee table.
You hear that? All of the other top Democrats were absolutely mortified at the thought of Biden having a one-on-one meeting with someone without them, without his handlers.
And I said, Mr. President, thanks for the moments. This is very important. I got some big national security things I need to talk to you about that I've heard and I think you know, and what do we do? But first, real quickly, Mr. President, can I ask you a question? I cannot answer this from my constituents in Louisiana. Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? Like, I don't understand, liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? Because you understand, we just talked about Ukraine. You understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas from him,
And now what you're about to hear next is absolutely going to blow your mind.
And he looks at me stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. And I said, Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order 3 weeks ago. And he goes, no, I didn't do that. And he's arguing with me. I said, Mr. President, respectfully, could I go out here and ask your secretary to print it out? We'll read it together. You definitely did that. And he goes, oh, you talk about natural gas. Yes, sir. He said, no, you misunderstand. He said, what I did is I signed this thing we're gonna conduct a study on the effects of LNG. I said, no, you're not, sir. You paused it. I know. I have the export terminals in my state. I talked to those people this morning. This is doing massive damage to our economy, national security. It occurred to me, Barry, he was not lying to me. He genuinely did not know what he had signed. And I walked out of that meeting with fear and loathing because I thought, we're in serious trouble. Who is running the country? I don't know who put the paper in front of him, but he didn't know.
So just to be very clear, Joe Biden has been signing legislation, executive orders, God knows what else, without even knowing what he's signing. He's just been getting told what to sign by his deep state handlers, and honestly, in Joe Biden's defense, they were probably lying to him half the time, and he was just too old and senile to know better. Given this is the case, it's actually shocking that Joe Biden didn't sign away all of our nation's wealth to a Nigerian prince or something. But so this story from Speaker Mike Johnson just confirms what we've all sort of already known, but now we have the proof. A shadowy group of deep state actors have been running the country for the last 4 years, and our president, Joe Biden, was president in name only. Over the last 4 years, while our country has been driven off of the side of a cliff, Joe Biden has been in the back taking a nap, as he just sort of incoherently signs anything put in front of him without even knowing what it is that he's signing. Meanwhile, who knows who's really been manning the helm? Who has really been turning the levers of the country for the last 4 years? I'll tell you what, though, whoever's been doing it has been doing a pretty terrible job. I think we can all agree on that. It's almost like this has been some sort of sick experiment. Do we really even need to have a president? Or can we get by with a collective of unelected shadow figures? Because here's the great thing about unelected shadow figures: no one has to take accountability for anything ever, and the will of the people no longer matters. It's awesome. Well, for the shadow figures, that is. And so here's my thought. How is all of this not illegal? How is it not illegal to knowingly manipulate the highest office in the nation, the presidency, to push an agenda that no one voted for or approved of? Frankly, I hope everyone involved in this entire situation gets investigated, because last I checked, this isn't how this entire democracy thing is supposed to work. When our president doesn't even know what he's signing, that's when we have a problem. I also can't help but notice that the very same people, these top Democrats that were lying to and taking advantage of Joe Biden, were the very same ones pushing the narrative that Joe Biden was totally cognizant behind closed doors. We all got told for years that behind closed doors, Joe Biden was as sharp as a tack. Don't believe your eyes, just listen to us. His handlers, everything is fine, and Joe Biden is in total control. In fact, not only were we told to not believe our own eyes, we were also condemned and shamed for making note of the fact that our president couldn't even string together a chain of coherent thoughts. How dare you question the cognitive function of Joe Biden? That's our president you're talking about. And so now we know the only reason why they were all pushing that narrative was so that they could continue to take advantage of a senile old man, our president. And so I think that's all I've got for you guys today with this video. When we talk about draining the swamp, this is exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about this unelected class of leaders that no one voted for, that still think they have the divine mandate to do whatever it is they want with the country and with our tax money. Well, guess what? Newsflash, that's not how this works. We're putting a stop to it, and we are going to be making this country great again. But hey, this is a big one, so I want to know what you guys have to say about all of this, so please go down below and drop a comment. Please like the video if you liked it. Please subscribe. It's huge, and it really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for watching, and of course, as always, stay safe.